What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Dun, 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 dun,
You like it, man? You like the the intro? Yeah,
I
I
do.
like it. I'm pretty proud of that, actually. I made it while procrastinating for studying for my boards exams for dental school. That's so you know, you do your best work when you're not supposed to be doing that. You do your best work when you're supposed to be doing something else.
It's basically the embodiment of goofing off and just being lazy and just slothing around. Like you nailed it, man. You nailed it.
Although I think it's a little too upbeat and happy for like my persona or like my personality. But I'll take it. You know, I could be a little bit more bright and shiny. But anyways, guys,
it could be darker.
Yeah, it could be darker. But anyways, guys, I am back for what is this, like the third day in a row? At the very least, the second day in a row of streaming with my good friend RH Max.
Who are you, RH Maximus? This guy's been streaming. He takes a couple days off, but yeah, I've been blowing it up too. It's like we were talking about this we talked about a lot of things in the green room, but it's one of those things that I saw the Maximus stream. Those guys streamed the other day, got me super bullish. And then you and Alex yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, like these are the things you want to see. And when the prices are raining down sadness, like when you see the builders in our community and people stepping up to talk about this stuff and just explain why they're still here and why they're not leaving, like that's super inspiring. Like even for whether you're just somebody in the community hanging out or you're a streamer or whatever, like it's super inspiring for me. So I'm glad to see everyone doing cool stuff.
I gotta see that stream you're talking about with Gold Key and Dip Catcher and see.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen it yet, so I'm gonna check it out probably after this stream. But yeah, dude, I'm really happy to have you back on. It's been way too long since our last, at least public conversation. I know we chat all the time in the Telegram rooms and on Twitter and stuff. But yeah, I'm happy just to have for everybody watching. It's gonna be a nice, relaxed, laid back conversation. I'm just catching up with my good buddy Max publicly.
Boom.
So, man, how have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm going to see. So another thing that's been going on is I've been itching to see the highest stakes, and I saw you did. You talked about it. I haven't seen it. I saw you did the part of it the other day. I've been watching the last couple streams you did too, and I watched Big Pep's review and all that. So I'm planning one tomorrow. After I see it tonight, I'm planning to do a review of myself tomorrow. But yeah, it's everyone. I feel like I'm the outsider. I'm the one who hasn't seen it yet, outside of like the people who are not in America. I guess they haven't seen it yet either. But
the guy who brands himself as the RH Maximalist hasn't seen the Richard Hart movie yet.
A little of that weighs on me. A little of that's like, motherfucker, you should be seeing this right now. Yeah.
The man with the Red Bull background hasn't seen the highest of stakes yet.
I'm uninformed on the highest of stakes right now, other than the interview I had with Grant, which was a really good interview too.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good get for you also.
Dude, I mean, I thought I was going to get both, so they both were on the thumbnail, and I never took them off, so I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry, I don't want to mislead anyone. It's one of the things I try not to do is clickbait people with emergency hedron stream in all caps. Why did you do that, Sloth? Why did you do that?
Why? Well, let me tell you something, and we were talking about this in the green room, everybody. I need you all to super chat as much as possible. Because RH Max really he's kind of put himself into a bind where he can't monetize on his channel based on his brand. But now that he's here, all proceeds will go to RH Max. Anything that you donate at this point, just to make sure that he can make ends meet with his no monetization policy.
I have not listed my ETH address anywhere, so if you find it, that's lucky you. But I
swear to God, it was rhmax.eth.
No, it's absolutely not. So okay. I don't know if we want to talk about the .pls and .eth stuff, but yeah, it's funny what happened. Do you see what happened to Gamma like a month or two ago with his address being caught up in that list of transactions and then like being like, look, something about scammer, all that stuff. Do you remember
I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, because Gamma DevOps, who's does all kinds of amazing work with validator stuff in the community. His alias got just in a list of transactions, and somebody's like, "Oh, this guy stole my money" or whatever, And it was just a ridiculous situation. I never believed it from the get-go. I'm like, yeah, it's why would that be him? It's just a list of transactions, and his happened to be in there because I think it was using the bridge. I don't remember what it was about. But anyways, the moral of the story is, like, once you have that and then people can tie it back to you, then, I mean, not only does your part of your pseudonymity go away because you're now in a list of transactions that have that. Some people don't care about it, but I mean, for me, that is the opposite of why, not why crypto was invented, but that is like one of the things I value is not being able, it's just, not having privacy. My name on blockchain. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that makes sense, man. I get that.
Most people love it though.
Yeah, I got some of those PLS domain stuff, and I just like cryptosloth, sloth.pls, stuff like that, just to have for business purposes. I think it's good to have, but I don't want them like connected to like my personal wallets, at the very least.
That's something I do too. Even if I don't do aliases, I'd use different wallets, and if I do, give people or people send me something, or I give it to them, or otherwise not monetizing, but if I use them, they're not connected to anything else. I don't swap between those wallets, so there's hopefully no connection. I guess on the fiat on-ramp part, there's a connection, but even that's sort of mixed in with a bunch of other stuff. So I think it's good enough to use, but I guess you could
track it from the outside in, but not from the inside out. Like if you were looking at like the wallets that were being sent from your Coinbase account, which aren't on that's not on the blockchain, right? Like they have the accounting of like whose account sent to what address, but like from the blockchain, it's just like Coinbase wallet to your wallet.
Exactly.
And so like for like tax purposes or whatever, obviously like they would know. But like if I was looking on the blockchain, I would have no idea that the two wallets are linked.
Unless there was some other, you were able to see correlation. You would have to basically look at correlations at that point because they're all sharing the same pool of funds.
But that's damn near impossible because Coinbase is sending so many transactions all the time for people withdrawing and depositing money. So that'd be tough.
I hope so. I hope it stays that way, but it doesn't seem like we're going that direction, unfortunately, with all the other centralization crap that we've had to deal with lately as well.
Dude, I hear you, man. So speaking of all that, like how you holding up, man? I know things are a little bit bleak out there generally with SEC stuff, Uniswap delistings, Uniswap gatekeeping, all of that stuff. How you holding up, buddy?
I went shopping in the bear market. I've never bought luxury stuff before, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I'm at a Burberry store. I'm gonna buy a shirt because that's what I'm channeling Richard from 2 years ago. That's what he would do. And then I came across the bear. I'm like, well, the bear matches the shirt, so I'll get the bear too. And I don't know. I thought it'd be funny to have that like a bear market shopping spree type of thing. Because when Richard was doing it, it was during the bull and everything was great, and everyone's like, this is all good, except it kept going down, 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 down. But doing it at the bear, I think, is a little bit more either comical or brave. I don't know how to describe it, but I thought it'd be something fun to do. So I did.
Maybe a little show offy, Max. You actually have money? I don't have any money anymore. It's all gone.
Well, I have enough where I don't need it. No. You want to bring up the blog post where I talked about? I really pigeonholed myself, didn't I? Not only is it on my intro, I actually wrote a blog about why I don't monetize. So it's not something I plan on getting out of, even if I wanted to. Otherwise, I would look like, I don't know. Could I say I changed my mind when the facts changed? Could I say that? I heard someone say that times before.
Max, you can say whatever you want. There are no rules here, baby. You can do whatever you want. You can change your mind. You can clickbait whatever you want. Like, dude, it's wild.
I mean, branding wise, would that kill the brand if it was totally built upon this? Like, no one's putting words in my mouth. The content is not tainted. I do whatever I want, even though everyone. I mean, again, everyone out there who's watching this. This is not a dig at anyone who monetizes. Half the people, half of my friends in the community have some sort of course or pay group or whatever, such as this gentleman.
How you doing?
So so it's definitely not a dig at anything like that. It's just hey, it I think it does bring a uniqueness. Again, if we're talking about branding, we're talking about things like that. I think it does bring that, like, hey, not everyone else is doing it, but I don't know. I think it's fun to do things that both like are. It's not even seen as a. I don't think you could see it as a negative. It's not necessarily positive, but it's definitely different. And I think that different aspect is like this whole branding. In branding culture, a different aspect. No one can be. Shoot, what is the quote? It's like anyways, it's a unique thing, and I think it's interesting. So that's why I do it.
I agree. I give you shit for it because it's funny, but like I definitely agree with you, man. It's nice to have that, in the community where you're like, yeah, I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this for the community, purely for the community, not trying to build a business or anything like that. And you produce great content, man. So like you're definitely an asset to the community, whether you choose to monetize or not.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's too. I think that if I didn't, and I give away a lot of stuff too. I don't want to sell T-shirts, any of the stuff I make. But if I couldn't afford it, I wouldn't do it. So it's not like one of those things where I'm just trying to do it. I'm just going to run out of money one day. It's going to be really bad, and I'm never going to stream. It's like one of those things where I see this opportunity. It is sustainable, and luckily, unfortunately enough, I'm sure a lot of other people would do it too. If they thought they could either afford it or they thought that they were going to get something else out of it that they were looking for. So anyways, branding conversations are always interesting because with you too, I think we're one of the few people who only use green screens too. Like
I don't use a green screen, but I use like the background. Yeah.
I mean a background. So I've always thought about that too. Okay, I don't know how much time we want to spend on branding, but it's always interesting. It's always interesting for me to see like different streamers and how they either have this office, they have this place where secluded place where they do the work, or they have a background or a green screen, or they just have this they either don't have a good enough place or they just prefer privacy or whatever it is. So when I see yours, so is that actually like a painted on the wall deal?
No, this is the overlay, video overlay. I'm like a hotel room right now.
Nice. Just moving around the country. Don't want to get caught doing anything. I get you.
Yeah. I'm at a little beach trip with some of the classmates, and they all went out, and I was like, I'm tired. I'm going to hang out with my buddy Max.
I mean, that's a good enough reason to me. I don't know. Do people, when you're watching streams, do you prefer depth or does it even change your perception of the stream? I always think about that. I don't know how people feel about it.
Not for me personally, not so much. I think it's a personality thing. So like one person that has a really, really nice background is cryptographics. Like I think he has a really nice little studio, and it's slick, it's clean, and it kind of fits his brand. But then for me, I really like this like sloth guy. Like he just kind of like looks tired, and he's like in a dental chair and stuff like that. I'm like it resonates with me. It feels like my spirit,
Is that a belt around his head?
It's like a yeah, pretty much, I guess, like a headband. little hedron.
The question everyone wanted to actually that is a nice hedron belt headband. I almost want to Google head belt. Where can I get a headband? Head belt. Head belt.
You found your new luxury item to buy. Head belt.
I mean, would it fit Barry? Would it fit Barry? I think it would. Barry.
I think it would.
Just around here. I don't know. Barry looks fashionable.
Or you could be like Rags, where you just go out on your porch with your phone and just start talking, and you do have really awesome streams that way. And that fits his personality really well too. It's awesome.
He's always like, I've seen so many streams. First one I seen of him, he was like sitting on a corner. It's just like a concrete pillar. I just imagine he's at Starbucks or somewhere, but he's like, I'm just going to sit down in front of this concrete pillar and just talk for an hour. And I'm just, it is like a funny branding thing as well, but that's what I'm saying. Like those kind of unique experiences that you can bring that don't detract. Like I always think about like, I don't want it to be a distracting, but also if it's unique, I think
adds a personality, right?
Yeah. I imagine they like that more too.
Yeah. So. Well, I also have like Corey Costa, where like he has his green screen and it like moves in and out of frame, and then like he has his elbow as he's leaving. He's kind of made that into a little part of his brand where it's like the outro elbow.
Corey Costa, he's very unique in that way where literally his camera, it's always like sitting like just above. It's like you can see him, but then he has the, I don't know. I guess on camera, does he have the curtain in the background sometimes? I can't remember. Yeah. But his looks like he just like literally just went, hey, I have this like place in the corner of a room or something, and it's going to go do my streams. But it's very consistent, which I think it adds to the brand too. And it's very minimalist.
Personality, yeah.
There's no ending. There's no intro or outro. There's just like, this is, I'm going to talk on the internet for
If I'm talking the internet for 45 minutes.
I think people appreciate that. And
funny.
He is the king of tanks. The king of tanks.
Oh man, there was something else about his streams I forgot. Well, I think he has like his computer at the side and like his phone in front of him, where like the actual like stream is from. So that's why he has to like get up. It's kind of funny. But then he got like, do you remember like the community like pimped him out in like streaming gear really early in his career? I don't remember who it was exactly, but they got a lot of like a microphone donated and stuff, which was like really cool to see. So that's why he has like some really nice. He also has some pretty nice stuff.
That is it. I did not know that about Corey. Wow, that is an interesting part of the story.
Yeah, a little bit of Corey Costa lore for you.
Boom! Shout out to Corey. Corey will be on the stream in a week or two. We've been doing like a monthly. Like I'll go on his, he'll come on mine. We've been doing that.
Yeah, I go on his. He invites me on every once in a while. I think the first time I did it was more towards the Hedron launch, and then I think he invited me on again not too long ago. I don't remember. I think it was like 2-3 months ago. But yeah, I always enjoy going to high stream. I got to get him on mine at some point too. He actually does a pretty good job of telling his story when he's not interviewing. He's a good guest too, in addition to a good host.
Yes.
Very clippable. I mean, anymore. Yeah, I've stopped doing clips. It's too much work, buddy. It's too much work.
Anyone remember when Cloth did slips? When Sloth did
what?
clips?
Yeah,
did I say Cloth did slips?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I used to do clips. And then I have that like video.io.ai thing that clips things up and makes shorts and clips for you. But I've still been too lazy for that. I gotta get back on it.
You gotta get back to your branding, man. The sloth don't do extra work. Sloth no work.
I show up late, which I don't know where people got the idea that I show up late from. Everyone like acts all surprised when I'm on time, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever been late to anything except for like your streams.
Basically, my streams.
As an audience member,
we're an hour 9 minutes in. Sloth's like, yo. I'm like, and brother, he's not catching the replay gang. He is not catching the replay gang. You don't have time for that.
I may skip around for 5 minutes just to see, and then that's about it.
Max is talking again. Let me fast forward. Max is talking again. Let's get to the guest who has something interesting to say.
Oh, it's just Max doing an AMA on security. I'll get the next one.
Oh God. It's a solo stream. No, he needs to get more guests on the show. We should probably talk about crypto at some point.
That's not. Who cares, man? We can talk about whatever we want. Yeah, let's talk about crypto. What do you want to talk about, man?
Well, Raspberry asked me if I was using a VPN right now, and I tried to type I'm not. I feel so unprotected. And then he told me I was living a life on the edge, and that's a conversation that's meaningful and people should internalize. And if you're not using VPN, then you're probably not paying $12 a month.
And you probably have a really high risk of getting hacked. I exclusively use VPNs for all of my security. I got my NordVPN subscription and my Surfshark subscription, and now I feel really comfortable writing my seed phrase on a sticky note and putting it on my computer because like with the VPN, I can't get hacked. So I feel pretty comfortable and confident with those. I'm paying $24 a month actually. Well, actually 50. I got the premium because it's going to give me extra protection because I can go more places in the world with the VPN.
$1 per seed word. I like it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I highly recommend it. I think Max, guys in the chat, I think Max has I think Max has a affiliate link for you. I
have a ref link that if you use it, it costs me money. Like I pay them. I paid them every time someone used it because one day people are going to figure out this model of retail VPNs is not as impressive as they tout it.
Oh man.
VPNs are useful. They're so useful, but they're not for what you think they are. Let's leave it at that. No more VPN conversation.
They're for using 1inch.io in America. That's what they're good for.
Censorship resistant. There you go.
Yeah.
Funny enough, that would be the other tool.
Yeah. So trying to talk about crypto immediately tangents off into VPNs, VPN debate. Dude, that's so funny. That was one of your big sticking points when you were first coming up on the streaming circuit. You're like, I'll debate anybody on VPNs, man. I don't care.
No one ever took me up on it. I
took you up on it. I took you up on it. I offered you many times to debate.
I might have won that one. I think I automatically won that one. I don't know. Let's see. I think I offered to debate someone on that, and then wasn't someone.
It was probably K for K, right? Because he had a NordVPN.
No, we talked about that, and I was like, I met K for K. We did not talk about VPNs. However, if he ever wanted an opinion, a contrarian opinion, apparently it's contrarian, but I don't think it makes much sense because K for K. One day, K for K is gonna come on stream one day, but he didn't. You didn't K for K, so if everyone come on
If you go on, he should have you read the NordVPN like marketing like copy that he has to read, that he has to do for his affiliate link.
Is it? Do you have to do that for it?
I don't know. I assume so.
I think he has a whole video on it. He has like a NordVPN video that was on there for a while. But like I said, I mean, it's. I'm not saying VPNs are useless. I'm just saying that people use them for security, and they're not really for security. I will debate anyone on that. Anyone. So privacy. Now the chat's gonna be full of, but privacy is security. Can privacy has security? Yeah, I've heard all the arguments. Trust me, the stream is not turning into that. Let's 65 degree this, 69 degree this, and go into crypto.
Okay, all right. So yeah, well, give us your opinions, man. Like, where are we at? How you viewing the market? Hex, Pulsechain. Now that everything's out for good, like 3 months now, right? Like things have been up for like a solid quarter. Where's your head out, buddy?
Dude, that's a great question. It's man, it's been 3 months, and when Pulsechain launched, it was one of those like surreal moments of like, oh my gosh, glory has finally came. We finally get to cash out on that 10,000x, and then it went up almost 3x, I think, depending on your SAC rate or whatever. And I think 2.8 is what I usually say it went up. And then the bridge thing happened. All kinds of stuff up and down. The V2 versus V1, the burn and earn. There's been a lot of ups and downs. That's okay. If I'm trying to think of like what did not expect to happen, I didn't think I expected this kind of volatility. I expected the maybe price up and down volatility. Hopefully, I was hoping it'd go more.
Not just down volatility.
Well, not just the down part, but then just this is broken, or this is not up yet, or Hex had the problem for a while. Not Hex contract, but the Hex website too. And then but then the highest stakes came out, which is that was a cool thing. Like finally got the documentary. I think the most surprising part was just how the different things happened in order, and then all the just issues that are taken so seriously at the moment. But seriously, no one is. I even said it when the burn and earn, the V1 V2 Pulse X thing happened. I was like, first of all, the marketing spin on this is very interesting. Where we're doing V1 V2, oh, it's just another thing. You can choose now. Like that was actually marketing genius. I shout out to RH for that. I hope it turns into not V1 V2 because that's a little confusing. I hope it turns into burn and earn. I've said that before, but I think
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think burn and earn would be fine. Or maybe there'll be a V3 where he makes other changes stuff too. But just that happening, and then the SEC stuff happened, and then the drama that I don't see, thankfully, knock on wood. I think I've just muted so many people that I just don't see Twitter drama anymore, very rarely. So that's been good. I don't know. I always think about what was I expecting? Not that I have any expectations, but what if I were a person who dared to dream what the launch would have looked like? How different would that dream be versus the reality that's been the last 90 days? And I gotta say, it doesn't really matter. None of this shit matters. The chain is 3 months old. How old is Ethereum? It's like what, 5-6 years old, and it didn't go to 10,000x the first 3 months. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember that happening. I've never heard anyone talk about that. So all the stuff that I don't know, either feels like it matters, or is these, you can say whatever nice word you want to say, but I mean, bugs happened, things didn't launch great, whether that was intended or not, whether it's 5D chess, none of that shit matters. Like what matters is one day, if crypto ever like recovers, which if you look at the cycles, it tends to go up and down in cycles. I think things are going to look a lot different, in my personal opinion. So what happens in the last 3 months? I think the only thing I could say that's a little, I could relate to most of the people that could be frustrating is it's went down. The prices went down so much. Not that I don't know how many people were planning to sell on a 2x, a 5x, or 10x, but the prices went down so much where even if you were trying to take collateral, or you're trying to take like leverage, or you're trying to do anything with your bags other than selling them, it's been harder to do that, especially with the products not even available once you even do it. So that hurts. I definitely sympathize with people with that. But besides that, I think the thing that I keep going back to is just like, it's been 3 months. Like this is a new chain. There's all kinds of stuff that's happened. And I love the way that I think Buck from Fiat said the other day, It's like, if this doesn't end Hex, if the SEC stuff or whatever, if this doesn't kill the community, this doesn't make everything go down, I don't know what will. Like that's
this is pretty much as bad as it can get. It can pretty much, yeah. And like I've had a lot of people ask me, like, what do I think? And I try not to like spin or like cope too much. I try to like give like a pretty straightforward answer and not just like, I only have positive opinions. Like things are tough, and there's definitely not ideal. Like if you had to if you ask me like, do you think this is a good situation? It's like obviously not. But the big silver lining amongst all of this is that like it can be a big stress test that if we are able to come out of it strong, then there's really not that much else that can hold us back anymore. Like there's just so much weight pushing us down. It's like, how much more can you add on until eventually it pops up in the other direction? Now the question is, when we have our first pop, is that lasting, or is that like an exit liquidity pump where people who've been wanting to get out now actually have the liquidity to get out, and then we kind of like retrace again? Like how many cycles of medium volatility are we going to have to get before we can get that larger upswing of volatility? And that's something I don't have the answer to. But if we're able to get out of all this stuff, like you said, we're going to definitely be a lot stronger. And the one thing I've definitely learned about crypto, being in it for a couple of years now, it's like things change like that, dude. Like you're like doom, gloom, despair. Like, you're sitting on the edge of a cliff, and then like the next day, big green candles come in and all is better. And like we saw that back when Hex was like 1.7 cents at that previous local bottom before the big Pulsechain run up, where it went from like 1.7 to like 13 cents, something like that. Like it was like doom and gloom and everything was really tough. And then all of a sudden, like, the whole community was invigorated again.
I think the biggest thing that makes me still have that kind of, I call it unshakable confidence. I mean, everyone gets shaken from time to time, but like the ability to just like look past all the mud slinging everywhere and all that stuff is, again, the Maximus guys, the Hedron guys, Liquid Loans, Power City, all these products, all this economic energy is being built. I think that's a differentiator between our community and a lot of others, especially so early in this kind of cycle, where there are a ton of people who can't wait to launch their product and have every incentive. It reminds me of Richard so much. It's like, I think he's a master at getting everyone's incentives aligned. And I can't, if you look at the ecosystem, you see everyone building on it. Everyone has the same incentive. Everyone's like, they want the network to do well, and they've already invested too much to get out now. So we are going to make this thing work. That's what I feel like all the time. Like, this thing is going to work no matter what. And I think that can really create a beautiful dynamic. And maybe you look back in January, Richard, that's the last time Richard streamed. He was at the Hex conference. And you think it was an accident? He looked at the camera to talk to the SEC, I guess at least metaphorically, if nothing else, to say, I've saved more people. Like, I feel like that was, to me, he was almost preparing, like, hey, I know this stuff's coming. Maybe he didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but he knew that, like, he was willing and able to fight this kind of fight. That's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah. What was I going to say? And so kind of along those same lines, but the way that I kind of view things right now is through seeing, like, as the price is going down and I look at like how much disposable cash I have to be able to actually put into the market, I'm really looking at, like, even if this thing doesn't succeed in the way that we think it might be able to, and this is me being extra pessimistic, I still want to be exposed just in case it does take off. And then, like, all of it now at these price levels, we have real opportunities to get really large positions in the ecosystem, like specifically in Hex. Like 1 million Hex now is actually incredibly achievable. Like it is not out of the realm of possibility to get 1 million Hex. And that's like, if you just wanted a long-term forever bet where it's like, once I hit 1 million Hex, I'm never putting another penny in again, and I'm just letting it ride, whether it goes to zero or goes to the moon. Well, that's enough coins where, like, you can actually make a really solid amount of money as it goes up, versus, like, say it's doom and gloom for a while, you give up, and then you only accumulate, like, say 10 to 20,000 Hex at that point. Well, that's if you're wrong and the price goes up really higher, that might not be like that significant amount of money, and you might feel the need to FOMO in at higher prices. And so now, if you view your ability to accumulate in terms of like how much of the total ecosystem you're able to grab, we're getting to those price levels where you can get a really large amount of the supply for a sizable amount of the supply for not that much money. And these are really big opportunities in my mind to get that long-term forever position so that I have the exposure just in case this thing goes to the moon. And I personally think it will. Like, I do think we're going to have all-time highs again. I do think Hex is going to be $1 one day. Things are, it's a little hard it's harder to see it now because the bias is so far to the downside. But because it's so far to the downside, now we're able to get those positions that when it goes up will be impossible to ever get again.
Is that the mountain that people, so when you say that, I mean, to me, it makes complete sense. Hey, these are the best price ever to accumulate and be able to get a position that would super unattainable before. I remember when the Hex price first went crazy down, when the Godwell sucked to the one project. I remember doing a stream and talking about, oh, wow, it's only like 7K to get, what was it, like 150 T shares or 100, something like that. Some ridiculously low price that if you've been around for a while, you're like, this is the most, I never thought I would ever be able to get this again. But the people who've been here for a while, especially after Pulsechain launched, and you see, like, you look at your bag and you're like, wow, this used to be worth a lot more than it is now with just your Pulsechain tag. So there's that. And then there's like, how do you get the new people coming in? Like, maybe they just see, okay, this thing's controversial, founder, blah, blah, blah. But hey, it looks like a good product. Maybe I'll get a bag. Is it easier to sell to new people than the people who look around and say, I sacrificed money and now it's down a lot. I'm not feeling super motivated to go buy up all these discount prices I keep hearing about. Like, how do you even talk to people who've been here for a while or new onboards like that?
Yeah, I think, well, for the people who've been around for a while, the way I usually describe it is like, the amount that your portfolio is worth now is how much it costs to double your stack, basically. And so it's like the lower it goes, obviously, the less money it takes to double your stack, which means you need less price go up to be able to break even. And so actually sometimes the best way to get out in some of these positions is to double down again lower, just so that the ability to break even is that you lower that bar even more. And then as the price goes down more, like, so this is something that Silver the Antidote talks about. And he is right, technically, in a lot of ways, where he actually doesn't like DCA because the price can do multiple 50% drops over time. And like, we've seen that, like, we went from 50 cents to 25 cents to what's that, like 17 and a half cents. No, not 17 and a half cents, 12 and a half cents, 6 cents, 3 cents, 1.5 cents. And then now we're at the seventh happening, basically, of the Hex price, right? And
could have sold on a happening. Could have sold on a happening. Could have sold on a half.
Could have sold on a half. Right. So it's like, technically you would have been better off never buying until like we're at this point, because your money would have gone further. And that's why he likes to wait until he sees confirmation that things are going up. Now, my kind of thought against that, not against that, but like specifically for that, is like Silver actually has a very, very specific skill set of blockchain analysis, where he's like one of the top people who's able to analyze the blockchain and utilize that to understand where the market's going. Most people, including myself, don't have that skill set. I like rely on someone like Silver to get me that information. So for someone like me, where I don't exactly have 100% view on like the way in which money's moving in the system outside of like what I see on Dex Screener or what I see in the liquidity pools, I view DCA as an ability to bolster my bag to the next level, given where the current price level's at. So it's like, at one point it was say like, okay, so at the run up from 3 cents to 50 cents, you may only have reasonably able to get 10,000 Hex, or let's say 50,000 Hex, just for hypothetical, if you're able to put a couple grand in, right? Well, now on the way back down, that 50,000 Hex is much more achievable with like $200 to $500. And so now in my head, it's like, okay, let me throw a much less amount of money and then double up that bag. And then I level up to the level of like 100,000 Hex. And then as time goes on, maybe I can level up based on the amount of cash flow and income that I have to 1 million Hex. And it's like, how quickly, based on the price and my disposable income, can I get to that next echelon within the system? And then I have to ask myself, is it worth, basically, because in my mind, when I invest in crypto, that money's gone. I think of that money as like, doesn't essentially have already gone to zero, because I don't really plan on ever selling it. It's a bet that the system will win. And if the system hasn't won, then I'm just going to wait it out until that bet happens. until that scenario happens, right? This is what Johnny Chaos says. He's like, I have a price that I'm going to sell it at, and if it's not that price, I'm not going to sell it. Like, I'm going to wait for the market to give me the price I want. I'm not going to take what the market is giving me. He talks about that a lot, and I like it. But that's kind of the analysis that I do. How much disposable cash that I have that I can reasonably invest that I don't need for a long time, and then how efficient is that capital in terms of getting me to the next level in the system. So going from 50,000 hex to say 100,000 hex, then from 100,000 hex to 1,000,000, and then maybe 1,000,000 to like 10 to 20 million, something like that. And then you can also view that in T-share twos. Like, okay, can I be a squid now? Can I be a dolphin? And then you can expand that outside of just hex and be like, okay, well, can I get this position in XYZ coin as well?
Do you think that, I mean, I still feel like DCA, I mean, just with that nuance of both silver and U2, it still seems like DCA is a move that could be the most profitable when you feel like there's been a bot, or it's already went down so much. Like DCAing, I guess, in a bull market versus bear market, is that when you kind of got to be careful? It's like, okay, if you're DCAing in a bull market, or if you're DCAing when you haven't seen, max pain, maybe that's the time to be careful.
Yeah. Well, I've always seen DCA as like a long-term accumulation strategy, right? So typically when DCA is talked about, it's like with like the S&P 500 index funds or like ETFs. And they basically describe how like, if you try to time tops and bottoms, you really don't do that well. And if you miss certain days in the market, like over 10 years, if you miss the 9 most profitable days, one second. Excuse me. If you miss the 9 most profitable days, you lose out on like 40 or 50% of the gains, right? And so the game becomes not trying to time the market, but just being in the market, right? Like time in the market, not timing the market, that classic saying. And so when you're DCAing, you're exposing yourself to those multiple 50% hits or haircuts over time, but you're accumulating over for a multi-decade time period to hold, right? It's like long-term fundamental value accumulation versus short to medium term flips. Now in crypto, the volatility kind of puts a wrench in that because like traditional markets, S&P 500 ETF index funds, they return like an average of like 4 to 7% a year over time. And so there aren't these crazy swings in volatility where you have so much more money than you've ever had. And then you have like almost no money in like the next couple months, right? So there's an element of like strategic profit taking and re-entering that comes along with the extreme volatility in crypto. But for a product like Hex, where most of us speculate on its long-term value on a span of up to 15 years, and I think a lot of us have stakes where we speculated that it'll be profitable to punt it out for 15 years. The DCA strategy is viable, but you have to be on that longer time frame, and you really aren't playing single bull markets or bear market, single market cycles. You're putting bets on the long-term success of Hex as becoming an accepted store of value across crypto. Does that make sense?
And not dying. Yeah, it just gives me some things around DCA too. It just seems like, but in the stock and the crypto, in stock, I don't usually see things going like down, like 50% drop, 50% drop, 50% drop. So it seems like DCA is like people view it as a safer way to do it in the stocks. Of course, you can miss the 9 most profitable days and stuff, but still over time and before your retirement, it's shown to be profitable. But for crypto, where they have the wild swings, it's almost like I don't know. I think when I do DCA, I've been thinking about this too, like different strategies. I think I'm going to be very strategic with it, where it's kind of like if I don't know, if it's not right now, for example, if it's if we're already way past that, I think I would think differently about it than I would if we're in the middle of the bull or at the bottom, or SEC 17 more lawsuits, that kind of thing is different. But people even taking it further than that, like the SEC stuff, that's like the existential threat type of thing. Like if you don't even, if you believe Hex is going to be like branded security, or Richard's not going to be able to be a part of the product, not that we need them anyways, or all this stuff happens, then people think their bags are going to go to zero. So how do you have confidence that your bag is not going to go to zero, even with all the max FUD?
Well, so I would flip that and say that you can't know that, right? Like, and I mean that by the strictest sense. Like, no one actually knows, like, for sure what's going to be the outcome of these lawsuits or the success or failure of Hex. Like nobody technically knows. We have different degrees of confidence, right? Like I'm pretty confident that Hex will succeed over time. I assume you are too. Same with Pulsechain and whatnot. But they are probabilistic opinion. They're probabilistic, not deterministic or absolute absolute knowledge. And so because of that, the way I kind of frame it for a question like that is that you're really only speculating with on the probability that you think it's going to succeed. So the lower probability you ascribe to the success of the system overall and the ability for the SEC stuff to not have a large impact over time is the amount that you should be investing into it, right? If you have high confidence, then it's probably good to invest. You'll probably be investing more. And if you have low confidence, you'll probably be investing less. And then you could, what's the word I'm looking for? You can taper that or like mitigate against being wrong. Like, you can be wrong about your probabilities. And so you can kind of skew to one side or to the other. If you're like 99% confident it's going to succeed, well, maybe bring that down to like 85% just in case you're wrong. And then you have some diversified exposure to something else that might do well, right? Something like that. And then let me think there's something else I wanted to say about that. I forgot. Maybe it'll come back to me. But yeah, what about you, man? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring up the point that I've never seen an ecosystem have. I think if we were just Hex, so I think that this is an interesting thing we can discuss too. Is without, so there's people with the opinion of like Pulsechain ruined Hex, or Pulsechain was bad for Hex, or at least short term. Maybe not long term, but at least short term it wrecked Hex. And if you look at the chart, hey, you might have a point there. But if let's say all this stuff would have happened and it would only been Hex on Ethereum the entire time, for me, thinking about all the projects, the launch of Pulsechain, all the economic, all the stuff we talked about, all the people building derivatives, all the people building all these products that need this network in order to work there, build it for this community to use. It almost seems like Pulsechain has strengthened the community, like outside of all the drama, outside of all the splitting buying pressure, all that stuff. Beyond that, it has made it into this ecosystem that is just harder to disintegrate, harder to. I mean, there's just too much going on. I can't think of another crypto ecosystem that has went to zero or like just failed with this many projects, this many people building on it, and this many like just people who are just no, I'm not going to give up no matter what. Like that's at least the outward appearance of such. So yeah, I guess without Pulsechain, do you think this would? How would we be looking at like Hex and SEC or whatever Richard Hart and Hex project without Pulsechain, without PulseX, without sacrifices? To me, it just seems like it's strengthened it so much more, and that's like the angle that a lot of people are not zooming out on either.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. And my opinion on all that is, well, let me back up for a second. So a lot of when I hear people talk about the benefits of Pulsechain, the main thing I hear talk about is the gas fee problem, and that is like a legitimate thing that Pulsechain has helped solve for hexagons and even anybody else who wants to build on a blockchain and not have to pay a bunch of gas fees. It makes more projects viable, and it makes us able to move economic energy more efficiently and allows more people to do it. So that is a valid use case of Pulsechain. But I think the actual benefit that Pulsechain has given to the community is even more of a walled garden for us. And it's a walled garden for us to build. And what I mean by that can be exemplified really well in what happened with Uniswap. So before Pulsechain, all of our liquidity was on Uniswap v3. And then all of a sudden, Uniswap delisted Hex from its front end, basically making it so that you have to find some other front end to be able to buy and sell Hex and provide liquidity for Hex in that way. Well, that would have been a much bigger deal if we did not have Pulsechain, because most of our liquidity had been migrated over to Pulsechain. Even eHex, most of the liquidity is on PulseX. And then we also have other dexes like PHUX, where a ton of liquidity is being placed there. And so the impact that the Uniswap delisting had on Hex was incredibly mitigated and ameliorated by the fact that we have our own playground to build and innovate on, and as well as put our liquidity into as well. So we've added an extra layer of protection around us as a community and as an ecosystem. And that in of itself provides a ton of value because we are able to operate without having to rely on other entities. So like a lot of people criticize Richard because they're like, you're not innovating with Pulsechain. It's just Ethereum control C, control V. There's nothing new is being solved. No use case is being created, and it's not innovative. So why would I go over here where there's no people, and when I could go over here to Ethereum or some other layer one where there's more attention and actual innovation going on? And my general rebuttal to that is that you don't need the thing that Pulsechain solved was providing an environment for hexagons to build and innovate and grow with each other without having to worry about other entities interfering with that growth and innovation. And Uniswap is the perfect example of how that can happen. And then, but not only that, but we're reliant on Ethereum validators and Ethereum stakers validating the network and the blocks. And so we have an unwanted connection to the Ethereum Foundation and the Ethereans that may not always be beneficial from a gatekeeping standpoint. And so now we have our own place to live where we don't have to worry about being shut down by anybody who's contrarian to Hex or who's adversarial to Hex, which obviously we can see there are a ton of people who are.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, I can't imagine if we didn't have Pulsechain and then this came out and then Uniswap was just like, hey, you know what, Hex, no more liquidity. Like you can't trade it here anymore. Like imagine the panic. Imagine the bad stuff that come from that. That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
Very underrated point.
Like I was actually more worried when I heard the Uniswap news than I was with the SEC news, because like the SEC stuff was like is really more like an attack on Richard. Like it doesn't. We
don't like your style.
Yeah, we don't like you, Richard. We're coming after your money. And like it does have downstream effects on like the Hex price chart because like bad press, people like see SEC's has indicted him, it's a scam. Like it makes it easier to dismiss it as something not serious. But from a fundamental perspective and from a code perspective, like nothing about Hex is going to change based on this investigation. The only thing that's going to change is like the price and the rate of adoption, which is important. Like I'm not downplaying that, but like Uniswap delisting was a more direct had a more direct effect on Hex because it was one of the main places that liquidity was placed on Ethereum, which is a fundamental aspect of being a decentralized asset, being on a DEX and being on the biggest DEX that exists.
Yeah, I don't think that's one of the low blows I've never seen coming. I would never thought Uniswap, really any coin, not just Hex, but any coin. I could never imagine. So Uniswap's whole concept is like the innovation. Like our friend Sammy's talked about this before. He had a really good one on explaining Uniswap and all this stuff. And always stuck with me was Uniswap is like the innovation there is take anything and trade it with anything else. That is the whole idea. The whole idea is if something has liquidity, if two things have liquidity, you can trade them. Or if, or however it's set up, trade two tokens. And they literally disabled the feature that is trade two tokens in favor of this, like, blacklisting and all this stuff. And it's incredible because, and just on Hex's case, nothing is resolved. This is literally an allegation. No one has decided anything. So just based on an allegation, they could prevent you from trading a token. I think that's just incredibly short-sighted.
Did you watch Rags to Riches stream with the SEC lawyer, with the securities lawyer?
No, I have not.
That's a really good. It's a good sobering stream to get some actual facts and kind of see what's going on under the hood of like what's the actual strategy with this lawsuit. Because when we read it on the face, we're like, what is this bullshit? Like this doesn't make any sense. This is factually incorrect. Like this, it appears as a joke, which I hesitate to think that originally, because I'm like, these are professionals. Like these are professional lawyers who work at the SEC. Like they do know what they're doing, even if they may not be like the best lawyers in the world because they're not working at XYZ, whatever. Right. They're still professionals and they know what they're doing. And there are things that are going on in the world of litigation that I'm just not aware of because I'm not in that world. Right. And so that stream gave a little bit of a more, grounded perspective on a more realistic, like what's actually going on here. Like what are they saying And then what are they trying to do with this? Like, why are they throwing? Seems like they're just throwing a bunch and seeing what sticks. It's like, because that's an actual strategy. Like everything, like kind of like there's a reasoning behind what that document for the lawsuit. There are reasonings for everything that's in there. And to be honest, if you haven't seen it, like it's actually not very positive. Like it's actually like pretty like this is it has more teeth than I thought it did. But after listening, it's a good one to know exactly what's going on, and I definitely recommend that stream to anybody who's in the chat right now in the audience.
I have to watch it. Very interesting.
Yeah. And the guy was he's a validator. He's a Pulse validator, so he was part of the community, which I appreciated because there are two arguments with that. You're like, well, he's a Pulse validator. He's in the ecosystem and he's biased, but I personally want somebody's opinion who has that expertise because they understand the system, right? Like I want somebody's opinion who knows what's actually going on in our ecosystem and also understands what's happening in the legal world. I think that's really valuable.
Definitely. I mean, you see stuff on TV every time. If you're an expert in anything and you hear someone on TV talk about it on like a news program or otherwise, you're like, none of what they said just makes any sense. Like when people start talking about VPNs and stuff, I'm like, none of what you said makes any sense. All right, well, I'm going to go down there.
Well, except when I talk about it, I only make legitimate factual points that unfortunately destroy all of your arguments, but that's neither here nor there. I know you're running from our debate, but we don't have to talk. We're talking about crypto right now, not VPNs.
Red Bull's paying me to go against VPNs. They're trying to get a better price acquiring Nord. And
so you do monetize.
We don't need to. I don't talk. Are we live right now?
Fuck it, we're doing live, baby. We're doing
it live. Do it live.
Kaiser, if you're in there, clip it, baby. RH Max does advertise.
Oh God, Kaiser's here too. She's she's here. Okay. Although I think the first time I introduced this background, I did say that I had a Red Bull and I was drinking. And I was like, yeah. By the way, I have to say Red Bull after every 90 seconds or something. That was a great introduction stream. I don't remember which one it was. It's probably 0% downtime number 15 or something like that.
Yeah, 0% downtime. Hey, that's my show, buddy. That's my show.
I'm going to talk about that. You have speaking of SEC loggers, you got some copyright loggers, and they may be hearing from on the downstream streams.
Well, Max, how are you gonna pay for these lawyers if you don't monetize, buddy?
It's true. I may have to pick up a third or fourth job, and I will do everything to keep from doing it. Speaking of Hex, speaking of Hex changing, I just wanted to talk about this too. This is a poll. And I told Sloth about this. I'm like, I don't know if people are going to get it or understand it, but when I listened to your stream with Alex yesterday, I almost felt like it was, again, and you can tell me whether I got something out of it or not, or whether I just came up with the idea, but it almost sounded like Alex was just, he mentioned something about I thought he said something about like unless Richard relaunched Hex or something like that. I don't want to say that he said it. I don't want to, don't quote me on that or anything, but I felt like something made me think of this I wonder if this is the code, when the code becomes released, not only may other community projects use it. I don't know if, Dipcatcher and them, because he's talked about it a lot too, about cross-chain, blockchain stuff and how that's a secret sauce of Pulsechain. We've talked about it on stream before too, but, and that combined with the whole meme of, Richard, people have asked Richard, when Hex V2, and he's like, Hex V2 is Hex, it's here, it's already here. So like, I'm trying to separate those two and be like, is there a legitimate chance that in the, either sometime in the future when Richard wants to focus on Hex or sees an opportunity to unify the chains or make swapping between them easier or onboarding easier or whatever, is there anything to this? Is there anything to a Hex V2 that would have these kind of game changer type features? And would it be worth doing it?
I voted no in your poll. I don't see it happening personally.
Okay.
So in the conversation I was having with Alex, the context around that little part was that we were talking about the limitations of the tech of the new code that he's writing, of the new contract, with the fact that you need to like account for, like, you can't change anything about Hex, right? Like everything in Hex is set in stone and you have to work around it for the changes that you're making. Instead of being able, you can't upgrade Hex to also fit the things that Alex was doing. He has to work his stuff around the way Hex already works and exists as. I just personally don't see Richard doing any kind of upgrades or migrations of Hex. I think the fork in of itself was probably that. Like that's what the fork was in a lot of ways, like upgrading Hex onto a faster, cheaper, more gas efficient network, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't see him doing something like Alex, where he makes a whole new contract and then you can like redeem your stakes or your liquid Hex to upgrade into the new contract. I just don't see him doing that. I think he probably feels his time is better spent working on Pulsechain stuff, and honestly, probably now like SEC stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just I don't, I've never took it seriously before. Again, I always thought, Hex will be the same. There won't be a new contract to be like that for 15, 30, 45 years, however long you think blockchains are going to last, 100 years, whatever it is. But I think the only time that made me a little bit more serious, and again, I'm not attributing this to Alex. Alex and Sloth's conversation got me thinking about this, and that's all. So this is purely my poll. But it just made me think that if there was a time to do it, if there was a time if Richard looked at the whole debate, PX, EX debate, and I don't know, I just get this feeling that maybe I speculate he's thought about it. I'll say that. I think he's thought about it. And I think that if he sees Hedron do this successfully, that not that he'll do it, but it's definitely, if it's on the list of things to change or make a big splash on, or be like, see, this is going to be helpful for whatever game theory he thinks is going to be good in the future. I don't think he would change anything else about Hex. I think all the other features are fine. I don't think we already have HMIs and HSIs and stuff like that. But I think that if there was one thing, the Ethereum and the Pulsechain being able to stake back and forth on either chain or trade back and forth, or we don't know, I guess there's not a Hex bidding system or anything, but having that unification between the tokens, that's the only ideal I could think of. If he were going to change Hex, that's the only thing I could think of that he would even consider. But I don't assume it's ever going to happen. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But if it would, I think this would be at the top of the list of why.
No, I think it's a fun line of thought to go down, just in terms of like, how would that even look like? Like, what would like unifying the Hex contracts look like? I mean, and like Alex has given us a potential solution because he's creating something like that for his tokens. Yeah, I think it's definitely a fun thing to think about. It would be pretty crazy if he actually did it. But yeah, let me ask you this, man. What do you think of all the stuff that Alex is doing with the upgrading the Hedron and Icosha contracts and kind of unifying them together?
Pretty amazing. My first reaction yesterday when I caught your stream about right when Alex came on, I had to rewind it, and then I heard you kind of introduce the concept because I hadn't seen anything. I was traveling. I hadn't seen anything come out yet, and then I thought, man, no. I don't want to trade my tokens. At first, I was like, "Oh, this whole process. What happened to immutability?" That my whole like angst of being like, "Oh crap, I got to go through this migration period and all that stuff." But then I kept listening to you talk about it, and you read it, and you just talk about the different features and go through the message that he sent before he came on. And about 15-20 minutes in, I was like, "Damn, this sounds pretty cool, actually." Like the HMI's portion, the ability, the cross-chain deal. I was like, wow, this is like actually innovative stuff that gets me excited. I imagine a lot of the other people get excited too, and could be less confusing for the brand, and just the interoperability. Again, go back to Dipcatcher, as talked about before on the show, about Pulsechain secret sauce of like having another chain. And then I don't know how much he's thought about I almost feel like, I think that Dipcatcher and Goldkey have probably thought about this before too, and the fact that Alex is getting it out could be even more motivation for if they were going to do something around it. That would be I could imagine them doing something with it too. Pure speculation, but Dipcatcher's definitely talked about this before, and then Alex actually gets on stream, starts talking about it, where he's going to upgrade such a popular, a well-established, fun product like Hedron and do all this extra stuff with it and the cross-chain swap. So yeah, at first it was a little bit of angst, and then I was like, this is the most exciting news I've heard for a long time for any of the community projects. So that was my first reaction. But how about you? Yeah, and we could talk about, I mean, you covered a lot yesterday too, but I wanted to ask, like, the game theory portion of the biggest part. Like, how does this, people there have been books written that include Hedron. I'm thinking of cryptographics right now. I'm like, he read a book explaining this stuff. You've done a ton of content going through each little piece of game theory and technical details. How does this change the way we look at Hedron and the way that you look at it?
Well, honestly, it changes all of it. And I was thinking about it. I was reading. It's like, man, pretty much all my content I've created on it before is like not really that relevant anymore. I'm gonna have to go back and redo a lot of my slides and like rethink through things. And I haven't even completed that yet because, well, one, we don't have all the details, right? This was just the teaser information of phase one. So we don't even, from what I understood of what Alex has said in that text that he wrote in Telegram, this isn't even everything. Right, like there's more stuff coming, and there's more mechanics to understand. So, really, we're kind of in a place of flux in terms of like what's the game theory going to be. But it does help to understand it each step of the way, so we can get on the ball quicker as everything comes out. In terms of what's obviously changing, like the ceiling prices are more dynamic with Icosa now, because there's a sliding scale. So it's like if it's under the ceiling price, you actually mint more Icosa than before. When you would just mint that base rate, you can mint extra based on how far we're away from the ceiling price, and that gets staked away. So the ceiling price is now dynamic. And then also you have leverage on your Hedron loans. So you can do up to 10x leverage when you want to borrow against your Hedron, which I think is pretty cool to have that extra ability to like, lever up a little bit on your hex stakes and get a lot more Hedron quickly, and also increase the probability that people default and get those stakes onto the auction house. And then the fact that you can use both coins on either chain to stake and earn inflation of the system, it creates a lot of new game theory there, where it's like, do you take all of your Ethereum tokens and do you bridge them over to stake on Pulsechain? Do you take your Pulsechain tokens, you bring them over to Ethereum and stake? Like, what do you do? I'm still thinking through like what are the different options based on different goals that you might have, and like how would you like go about making those decisions? So there's a lot of new things to think about, and a lot of new ways to like combine folding yield into each other, which I know like Crypto Kool-Aid is big about, and like Red Squirrel in the chat with the Tetra stuff. So like it's a good thing Tetra hasn't come out, because we would have to rewrite I would have to rewrite all of the scripts that I would have already written for Hedron. So that's kind of nice.
Is there stuff that a lot of the criticisms of Hedron, do you think they've been addressed in the upgrade as well?
Yeah, I think some of them have. The getting extra Icosa for the thing increases the incentive to do HSI buybacks, which is good. There were some other things that it addressed too that I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, I think it's starting to address a lot of those concerns. I'm blanking right now. And there were good updates to the auctions to prevent bots from having too much power, too much advantage over an actual user. And there are a lot more fees being taken from the system. Like when you make a bid, there's a fee in the marketplace. Those fees are paid in like Hedron and Icosa and whatnot, and those are getting distributed to stakers. So more yield is being generated, increasing the value proposition of the staking pools, which increases the value of the tokens inherently.
So is that just at a high level too, then, is that the biggest, I guess, game theory change is going to incentivize people to stake more and to use the auctions more, or feel like they're going to get, not botted away, and feel like they're going to get deals on stuff where they, otherwise they wouldn't feel like even participating because they know they're not going to win, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's possible. Sorry, say that question one more time. I just make sure I got it.
Like just the ideal that the biggest changes were around the game theory have been like, okay, now I have to adjust my thesis on how much should I stake, or how long should I stake, and how much should I participate in the auctions.
So I think most of this stuff is pushing momentum in the direction of staking more, because it's pushing things in the directions of more yield and more HSIs in the liquidation auction, which also means more yield, and more Hedron burn, which translates into more yield. But not only that, we have already kind of hit that dilemma a little bit with PHUX being released and having the Alex pool with all of those tokens available to have like pretty high double-digit and even low triple-digit APRs, which are out earning the staking pools in the first place. So we already even have situations where it's like staking it natively isn't the best option from an ROI, from an APR perspective, and an ROI perspective on like how you can have your coins earn the most. So this is just adding another layer of complexity on top of that, where it's like you have now multiple places to put your coins and earn yield on it. And so the question becomes like, what is the properties of that yield, like from like metaphysically, what are the properties of that yield? Where is it coming from? what are the risks you're taking, and then what are you earning that yield in, and then you have to juxtapose that with your goals and how big your bag is, et cetera, et cetera. And so long term, or like generally, I think this is a good thing, because the more places you can put your coins besides a liquidity pool in terms of selling, the less likely those coins are going to hit the market. So more staking, more options, more places to put your money is better than less.
Is that because I always, you think about Pulsex too with this? Is it PHUX? There's ways to the farms and stuff. I wonder if are they, because we haven't seen them be incentivized for a while. You think Richard's looking around and seeing these other products and stuff and be like, maybe we'll make adjustments here and there? And do you think other even he Alex is like, oh wow, this new product's here, LP, or is it kind of like, okay, any kind of place where I can put the coins, even if it's not my product, any other place that people can put coins and incentivize them not to sell, that's a good thing. Like, how do you think they think about that?
I'm not sure, to be totally honest.
I guess what's better? What's the best way to think about it?
I don't know. I definitely think that people will probably at some point like add utility to these tokens, like integrate them into their protocols. I just the way that I think of it is just the more places you can put the tokens, the less likely people are to sell it. Like, I think it's about that simple. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But all right, Max, unfortunately I have to go now.
I heard a knock. Yeah. I get those knocks sometimes too.
Yeah, right. But dude, I really appreciate your time. Everybody in the chat, I really appreciate you hanging out. Definitely, hit me up, Max. I'd love to come on your channel again, and I'll definitely try to have you on a little bit more regularly. Do it. Have more conversations, have some more fun VPN conversations.
That's all I'm here for, really, to spread the good word and spread the contrarian message about VPNs.
All right, everybody in the chat, thank you so much. RX Match, his Twitter is in the description. Make sure you go give him a follow and go subscribe to his YouTube channel and super chat the crap out of him. He really needs your help, guys. Max, thanks for.
I accept those, but I accept hearts in the chat though. I accept those kind of super hugs, not super chats. Yeah. There we go.
Dude, I appreciate your time, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and it's always awesome chatting with you, man. I appreciate it.
You too, man. You too. One of my favorite people to talk to in the community by far, and you have been for the last year and a half.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, we started at the same time, baby. We're still going strong.
Up and to the right.
Up and to the right, baby. All right, everybody.
All right.
Peace out.